Time is running out for the San Diego Gulls, but at least they get a big win against the Ontario Reign. We'll talk about that and more on this edition of Locked On Anaheim Ducks.
You're Locked On Ducks, your daily podcast on the Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jason JD Hernandez. I've been covering hockey for well over a decade, and I've been covering minor league hockey for about that long. Once again, thank you for making this your first listen of the day. This is going to be a late night Gulls Thursday episode. We are still doing Gulls Thursday, and we're going to talk about the last couple of games they had. They fell back down to earth against the first place Coachella Valley Firebirds, and also a massive win against their biggest rival, the Ontario Reign. But we're going to begin by talking about defense or lack thereof, because it's a common theme all year long. Too many shots against, once again. The Gulls are not quite the league leaders in that, but look, they may as well be. The Gulls right now have been averaging like 32 or 33 shots against per game, which is just not good, folks. It's really not. They're also allowing way too many power play opportunities. The Gulls have struggled in several aspects. They've been shorthanded almost the most out of everyone in the division. They're among the league leaders in most power play opportunities allowed. That shouldn't happen. This is mirroring the Ducks way too much. One of those is being shorthanded too much, which is directly resulting in getting all these shots against over and over and over again. There's been several times this season where the San Diego Gulls have been outshot like 70 bajillion to 12. I'm exaggerating only a little bit, but we've had more games than not where the shots have been like 40 something to 20. We did see this on one of the games that I'm going to talk about today. But this is an ongoing problem in the Ducks organization, but specifically for San Diego this year. It hasn't been as bad as previous years, but it's still a glaring problem. And part of that is not getting in front of pucks. You're letting your goaltenders do a lot of work. And I'll give credit to, the two top goalies for the San Diego Gulls, Calle Clang and Thomas Suchanek, who in my mind are the two top goalies in the San Diego Gulls right now. Look, I'll be honest with you. I don't know if they can ride these two goalies for the next couple of years. Like, the Gulls do have some solid goaltending in the pipeline, but I feel like they're going to need another goalie at some point to help them in the system, because I like Suchanek, but I don't know if he's going to just hold on. Calle Clang, I like Calle Clang, but neither of those guys I see as a potential NHL goalie. I really don't. I see them as a top AHL goaltender. I see them as being a number one in the AHL, which one of them is now, for years to come. But for right now, I know the defense is not making them look the best. They are getting a lot of in close chances. So it's really hard to say who's more at fault here. I think both goalies, Suchanek and Clang, are doing everything they can. But defense has got to step up and get in front of some pucks, and they're just not doing that a whole lot. And I mentioned the penalty killing. Look, the Gulls have been shorthanded way too many times this season, some of those on 5-minute majors, and they're allowing a ton of shots whenever they're shorthanded. Taking a quick look, they've been shorthanded a whopping 224 times so far this season. That's a lot. That's a whole lot. The only teams that have allowed more in the division is Tucson and Calgary, but Tucson, we know, takes a lot of penalties. Calgary, a little bit surprising, but they've kind of lost their cool over the past maybe month and a half, where they've just kind of fallen off big time. As far as the rest of the league, the only teams that have been shorthanded more times, Laval Rockets and the Lehigh Valley Phantoms. Oh, and Hartford. That's it. That's the list. Now, I will say at least Hartford is pretty good at the power play and PK. At least they're pretty good there. San Diego, when your PK is below 80% and amongst the bottom teams in the league, you know that's not good. And that's usually spelling disaster. Kind of similar to the Ducks, right? Getting shorthanded a crap ton of times and allowing too many goals. Yeah, it's like father like son. Your parents' team gives up a lot of penalties, gives a lot of power play goals. The goals are doing the same thing. So I don't even think this is a goals problem. I think this is an organizational thing. And something the Ducks organization is going to have to address in the coming months, coming seasons. They've got to get more disciplined. I know I just talked about this a lot with the Anaheim Ducks. Like the Ducks need to be more disciplined. Well, you know what? So does San Diego. San Diego needs to keep their cool a little bit more, although they're not getting nearly as many delay of games, not nearly as many too many men on ice. It's not nearly as bad as the Ducks, but they've still got to keep their composure. They've got to keep their cool and not take the bad penalties, especially at rough times of the game where there's 4, 5, 6 minutes left. And where the Ducks have the problem of not being disciplined and taking penalties in the offensive zone. For the Gulls, their biggest thing is they're taking penalties at the most inopportune times. We've seen this multiple times this season alone, where the Gulls would have a power play or they would have an extra man when there's an empty net and commit what I think is just a bad penalty. This is a pattern. All of this can be true. So maybe the Gulls need to be more careful when there's time running out, when they're behind by a goal. Do not take those penalties in the offensive zone, and especially don't give up, late goals like that. It's not good for anybody, not good for team morale. And stop allowing 40 plus shots. All right. We're going to head to the first intermission right now. We're going to talk about the last couple of games. We'll talk about the game against the Firebirds and the big win against the Ontario Reign. Stay locked in. Now, a brief word from Ibotta. Why Ibotta? Get some food and get some shopping going, because with Ibotta, you can save a ton of money. Now, look, I don't know about you, but as far as groceries, they're getting pretty pricey. Yeah, I would say they're getting pretty pricey. But you know what? Do you like making money, but also love spending money at the markets? Make money while you spend it every time you shop with Ibotta. Now, the average Ibotta user earns about $256 per year. That could cover the cost of an entire shopping trip. So you can buy that fancy flight you've been eyeing, that game you're dying to go to, or that fancy dinner you've been craving. And folks, I've been craving some fancy dinner. Right now, Ibotta is offering our listeners $5 just for trying Ibotta using the code LOCKEDONNHL when you register. Just go to the App Store or Google Play and download the free Ibotta app to start earning cash back and use code LOCKEDONNHL. That's IBOTTA in the Google Play or App Store and use code LOCKEDONNHL. Welcome back to Locked On Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Once again, you are locked in with Jason JD Hernandez. Comme ça. Let's talk about the last two games. First, the game against the Coachella Valley Firebirds. Oh, by the way, I'm also the public address voice for the Coachella Valley Firebirds. Firebirds just curb stomped them. Let's be real here. The Firebirds are a terrific team. You knew after they lost to San Diego the first time, you knew Coachella Valley was going to come back, and they came back in a big way. After that shootout loss, Coachella Valley pretty much said, oh, no, like, we're not going to let that happen again. So Coachella Valley, went back to the drawing board and they just crushed their last two opponents. I mean, yeah, they won convincingly Saturday night, 7-2. This one was just as convincing, a 5-1 walloping of the San Diego Gulls. Look, San Diego did not have much offensively. Coachella Valley, they came out right away and just did not stop. I mean, they had good shot after good shot after good quality shot. San Diego did get a few good shots there during their power play when Gustav Olofsson went to the box for tripping. But after that, Nathan Gaucher got nailed for interference, and towards the tail end of that power play, John Hayden scored his 10th of the season on the power play. So there you go. Gulls commit a bad penalty. Firebirds score on the power play. 1-0 Firebirds. And then after that, it was just all Firebirds after that. They scored 4 goals in the second period. Shots were 13-7, but it really felt like it could have been like 45-2. That's what it felt like. The Firebirds had complete control of the second period. They hardly gave up the puck in a bad area. The shots that the Gulls took were, for the most part, the perimeter. They just were not good quality shots. For the Firebirds, they pretty much had their way, including another power play goal from Connor Carrick. So McCormick scored, Winterton scored, Carrick scored, Robertson scored, 5-0 after 2 periods. That was pretty much it. Coachella Valley finally took their foot off the gas a little bit. Ben King got a late goal, spoiling the Alish Stetska shutout. Yeah, Stets had a shutout going. Still number 1 star. Still got 18 saves. San Diego loses to Coachella Valley 5-1. That was that game. Now let's talk about the game that took place against the Ontario Reign. This was a big game. Ontario had just won 8 consecutive games. They were going for a 9th consecutive win. And a lot of fans thought that it was going to happen at San Diego because of where the Gulls were in the standings. But not so fast. They forgot about somebody named Calle Clang. It was Woo Clang for the children, as John Broadbent would say. This was not close in terms of shots. This is the one that drove me a little bit insane. I'll go shots period by period. 12-6, 17-2, 13-5. Shots in the game were 42-13 in favor of Ontario. How bad was it? There was one shift during the second, and I know because I actually counted this, where the Reign just had like shot after shot after shot. Stop me if you've heard this before. The Gulls took a too many men penalty. So what do you think is going to happen? It's going to be a firing squad. And it was just firing squad, like shot after shot after shot, especially middle of the period after Nestorenko went off for cross-checking. The entire power play was in their zone. Ontario had what seemed like 10 shots in about 2.5 minutes. The puck never left the zone. Even when the puck was on their stick, they couldn't clear it all the way down. This was an issue practically all game. Like, you've got to clear the puck better than that. You've got to get it out of the zone. You've got to rest your guys. Don't give them 2.5 minute shifts, because what's invariably going to happen on those shifts is typically you're going to get scored on. But that didn't happen. Calle Clang saved their butts on multiple occasions. If it wasn't for Calle Clang, it surely would have been 3-1 or 4-1 or 5-1. It would have been just a complete massacre, or rather 4-2, 5-2. But just that long extended period of not getting the puck out, I legit thought Ontario was going to tie the game. I did, but they didn't. So how did we get to that point? Well, first period, San Diego actually came out a little bit hot. especially middle of the period. Nikita Nestorenko from Andrew Agozzino, just a terrific steal from Agozzino. This is a great play, by the way. I like San Diego kind of stalking a little bit. Ontario got a little bit lackadaisical with the puck in their own zone, and it was just a massive turnover from Ontario. Agozzino stole it, passed it right away to Nikita Nestorenko. That made it 1-0 San Diego. Then, later in the period, off of the faceoff, Glenn Godden to Robert Haig. 2-0 San Diego. And that's only Haig's second goal of the season. That was a blistered shot. Second period, Ontario came out firing. They had all the energy, all the momentum. Samuel Fagemo scored his 35th goal of the season. He could get to 50 this season, folks. I don't know why he's not with the Los Angeles Kings right now. I don't. That's a whole other topic altogether. But Fagemo got his 35th. It's 2-1 San Diego. And then the rest of the period is all Ontario. I'm shocked that they didn't tie it. I'm shocked it wasn't 3-2. Third period, kind of much of the same. I mean, here you are taking not good penalties. Tyson Hines, that late penalty, the delay of game, that one drove me nuts. You cannot take that kind of delay of game that late in the game. And that's what I'm talking about when I'm referring to those bad penalties late in games. They've done this more than a handful of times this season. And as soon as that penalty went, it was just Ontario pulling their goalie, going for shots. Samuel Fagemo should have scored the game-tying goal and didn't. Clang saved their asses. As he's done several times this season, the clock finally ran out on Ontario, and believe it or not, San Diego beat the Ontario Reign 2-1 in front of what turned out to be a pretty raucous crowd. And Calle Clang, the much-deserved first star, 41 saves. Good Lord. That was a crap ton of saves. And Ontario had, San Diego practically spoon-fed them their chances. And Ontario didn't take advantage. Only 13 shots. Only 13. Those are the kind of numbers that will drive you nuts. It drove me nuts. But you know what? Give credit to Wu Clang and the rest of the clan. Once again, 2-1 final score. San Diego gets a win, and Ontario's winning streak is over. What does that mean for the Pacific Division, and do the Gulls have a chance? Well, I will talk about that after the second intermission. Stay locked in. Now, a brief word from Robinhood. Did you know that even if you have a 401k, you can still have an IRA? Robinhood has the only IRA that gives you a 3% boost on every dollar you contribute when you subscribe to Robinhood Gold. But get this, now through April 30th, Robinhood is even boosting every single dollar you transfer from other retirement accounts with a 3% match. That's right, no cap on the 3% match. Robinhood Gold gets you the most for your retirement thanks to their IRA with a 3% match. This offer is good through April 30th. Get started at robinhood.com/boost. Subscription fees apply. And now for some legal jargon. Investing involves risk, including loss. Limitations apply to IRAs and 401ks. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold for 1 year from the date or the first 3% match. Must keep Robinhood IRA for 5 years. The 3% matching on transfers is subject to specific terms and conditions. Robinhood IRA available to U.S. customers in good standing. Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC, is a registered broker-dealer. Hey, welcome back to Locked On Gulls, which is under the umbrella of Locked On Anaheim Ducks and part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Once again, you are locked in with Jason JD Hernandez. Bam! Let's talk about, I know we're going to talk about playoff stuff, but I want to talk about Jan Mysak first. So Jan Mysak was acquired from the Anaheim Ducks / San Diego Gulls recently. And we thought he was going to play this week, but not so fast. Got to get this little bit of news out regarding Jan Mysak. Yes, that is how you actually pronounced his name. Mysak was playing in Canada. And I've seen this happen before. Sometimes you get visa issues. That's exactly what happened. And I thought he was going to play on Wednesday. But he practiced at Centre Bell. Here's a tweet from Anthony Marcotti. Quote, Jan Mysak est toujours... Sorry, not French. I can speak French. I can, but I'm not going to read the whole thing in French. Toujours dans le Lincoln... No. Jan Mysak is still unable to join the San Diego Gulls since he has still not obtained his work visa. The Rocket allowed him to train alone this afternoon at Place Belle. This won't surprise anyone. The young person is a hard worker. End quote. That's the kind of guy you want on your team. You want a hard worker. You want someone that's going to block shots. You want someone that's going to control the puck. You want someone that's going to get to the dirty areas. That's the kind of player you want and the kind of player you need to possibly make a playoff push. But is time running out? Can the Gulls make a playoff push? Well, I mean, time is very quickly running out. With that loss, the Ontario Reign dropped to 4th place in the standings. Could have been 2nd. San Diego right now is 14 points back of the, you ready for this? The Calgary Wranglers. Remember when the Calgary Wranglers were first place pretty much all of last season, first in the entire AHL? They were first place earlier this season, and they have just fallen off a cliff. Part of that has to do with Dustin Wolf mostly getting called up, but he's been up and down a couple of times this season. I still don't think the Flames know exactly what they're going to do with Dustin Wolf, but Wolfie's been up and down, mostly up. Without Dustin Wolf, the Wranglers have been very stoppable. 14 points up on San Diego, but there's only 18 games left. If San Diego's going to make a push, they're going to have to win. I would say out of the 18 remaining games, they would have to win 14 of those games to have some sort of shot and get a little bit of help. 78 points can get them to the playoffs, but one of those teams they're chasing has to fall off a little bit. In fact, here's the upcoming schedule for the San Diego Gulls. They have a back-to-back this weekend, Friday and Saturday, against the Milwaukee Admirals, who are struggling right now. And this is a team that San Diego has done okay against. San Diego can beat these guys. They can. They can win both these games. Once again, Friday, Saturday at the Sports Arena. Then next Wednesday, they travel to San Jose to take on the Barracuda. After that, they play at home against Texas, Calgary, Bakersfield. They can do it, but it's going to take a lot of work. I think they need to get all 6 points this coming week. If they get all 6, they got a good shot. If they can get 4, they're still in it. If San Diego gets less than 2 points from this next week, then I would consider them out. I would. So this is legit their last shots to get into playoff contention. So once again, those games are taking place at Pechanga Arena Friday and Saturday, and then San Jose on Wednesday. They're running out of time, but you never know. And by the way, rest of the division, just for those of you that are wondering, yeah, Coachella Valley in first place, 78 points, a 7-point lead on the Tucson Roadrunners with 71 points, but Coachella Valley has a game in hand. Colorado, 69 points, nice. Ontario, 68. Bakersfield, 66. Abbotsford, 66. Calgary at 64. Then you have the Silver Knights at 54, the Gulls at 50, the Barracuda all the way in the bottom with 46 points. The big advantage San Diego has, they have a lot of games in hand for the rest of the season. So they do have time to make it up, but can they? We'll soon find out. All right, that's going to do it for this podcast. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Don't forget this podcast is free and available across all platforms, including Stitcher, Spotify, Odyssey, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, etc. Follow me on X at StimpyJD. Show's X is at LO_Ducks. Email address is lockedonanaheimducks@gmail.com. I will be opening up the mailbag next week, so get your questions in now. It could be Ducks questions, it could be Gulls questions, it could be hockey questions. But send me your questions and we'll get to the mailbag next week. Once again, thank you all for your continued support. It is so greatly appreciated. For Locked On Anaheim Ducks and Locked On Gulls, I'm Jason JD Hernandez saying have a great rest of the evening. Please remember to be safe out there. Be kind to one another. And Ducks fly together. Sorry, Ducks and Gulls fly together. Caca, caca. That's a goal.